That's all right. I'm to blame. Okay, reconvene the meeting, and I apologise. I've just been to a Are You OK function down at Mittagong. I've had too many sausages.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. I'll just start again from this slide, essentially taking through. So in 2015-16, Council was successful through an IPART determined process of obtaining a special rate variation. So that was when Council started a whole heap of rate increases to fund various infrastructure projects. During this process, the water rates were non-indexed during this period to offset some of those to offset some of the financial burden. The longer term impacts of those burdens as demonstrated here is that the water fund, as I've described previously, money that goes into that water fund can only be spent on water assets. So for us to be able to invest in the assets and those services going forward, we need to now bridge those gaps. So some of the increases that you'll see relating to those water rates will be higher during our long-term financial plan. So my goal as CFO is to make sure those funds are financially sustainable over a long term, and we're now playing catch up in having to increase the water rates to, I guess, appease for some of these freezes that happened earlier on. So you'll see as we formally go to consult after the 1st of May, there will be some fees and charges that will increase above inflation, and water and sewer will be some of those charges. Again, just a water fund P&L there, just for public record, and again the presentation will be there. So I won't take you through the details, but it'll be there for reference. Same logic with the sewer fund. We use the sewer fund to upgrade our sewage infrastructure and run the sewage treatment plant. So we have a massive investment in 3 of our sewage treatment plants coming up over the next 5 to 10 years. And again, a part of that revenue increase is to offset some of the loan repayments in that space. We are actively seeking grant opportunities, and we have received one last financial year for the Moss Vale sewage treatment plant upgrade. So every bit of grant opportunity that we get takes pressure off you guys as ratepayers in having to increase the rate. So we're actively doing that. We've got a grants management officer that is continually looking for these opportunities. Again, just a profit and loss for the record of where we're landing at a draft financial position. So now the consolidated fund is the accumulation of the general water and sewer fund, and I'll talk through some of the key principles in what we've built to get to where we've landed with our financial position at this point in time. So again, just recapping, $154 million operating budget, $104 million capital works budget, and a budgeted FTE of 491. So I'll be talking through the P&L in details in some of the key movements within some of those and giving you a breakdown just for your information, just to give some transparency on what makes up some of these categories in rates and charges, user fees and charges, and how they reconcile from year to year. So I'll delve into the details now and just looking at the revenue parameters that we've got. So our rates, if you have a look at the I'll go back one. You have a look at the rates at 5.42%. So when we calculate our rates, IPART determines what our rate peg is. So they've given us a core rate peg of 4.5. So they've given that to all councils, and in determining a rate peg, they allocate a population growth factor. For the Wingecarribee Shire Council area, it is 0.1%. So next year, the rates will be going up by 4.6%, generally speaking. Water and sewer, as I've spoken about, 7%, and domestic waste, with some of the changes operating in that space that will be spoken about later, is also anticipated to increase by 7%. Just working through the fees and charges and looking at how we construct the fees and charges. So every year we go through our fees and charges schedule, and again this is publicly exhibited for feedback after we go through our operational plan and it's resolved by council to exhibit. But we look at breaking down our pricing policy into statutory fees, cost recovery and market pricing. So we look at all of our parameters and then apply that with a financial function. So In doing that and determining what the number is, we also factor in any new fees that are going to be coming through and also increased volume due to fees as well. So sometimes, like, for example, Tulip Time is an example where our user fees and charges had gone up quite substantially to what we originally budgeted for previously. So there's two lots of factors there of a price increase and also volume increase as well. We will be providing further details at the 1st of May Council meeting in regards to the fees and charges schedule. Interest revenue, so where we started last year when we did our budget and where interest rates have gone to now, you'll see we're working off a lower platform, so our interest has gone up quite a bit. The majority of that is attributable to our water and sewer fund. So the money that we invest with those will go back into that water and sewer fund. Other revenue, and it's a small component of our profit and loss, but thought we'd call it out and just say that we've got some increased sales of recyclables. They're associated with increased costs, and again, they'll be spoken about shortly. And looking at a new revenue stream in our reuse centre down at the RRC. In talking with grants, we've been, through our quarterly reviews, we've been emphasising the amount of money we've been receiving through grants, through contested grants. So I thought I'd just break it down for you, just a couple of the key movements that we're seeing there. With grants, it's a bit difficult to predict where we're going to land with grants, so it's very difficult to budget. So we do go conservative on the grant side of things. From a financial perspective, and it's quite difficult to explain this, but and I've put it in there just to show that, using the example of the Mossdale sewage treatment plant, we received $25 million, but in our budget it's showing up as $22 million. So as accountants, we need to show the money as we spend it rather than as we receive it. So it's one of these difficult things, and we've had questions about the timing of those. So I just wanted to try explain that as best as I possibly could to show that in previous records I've said we've received $25 million, but as we spend it, we acquit it. So looking at some of the key movements, the financial assistance grant and our roads block grants have increased substantially from an operating perspective. And from a capital grants perspective, we have flagged in there the Mittagong Playhouse, but got a big asterisk next to that saying that we're still waiting for the outcome of the pending grant application where funds have not been approved yet. So we have put it in there to demonstrate that we are working actively in that space, but we're still waiting for that. It was due in the middle of March, but we still haven't received an outcome on that matter yet. Just taking you through our expenditure parameters. So very high level, our employee costs have increased by essentially 5%, just over. Some of the considerations that we've got is we had an award increase. So we're in the middle of our award increase cycle. We have also put in a new salary system as well. So that's been some attributing factors. Superannuation, our compulsory superannuation guarantee has gone up from 11 to 11.5%. And we do have some additional FTE sitting in there. I will take you through a reconciliation of that shortly. Borrowing costs, we are also borrowing to fund the Southern Highlands Regional Animal Shelter and the Civic Centre back of house. So our interest expense has gone up as a result of that. Materials and services generally gone up by 8%, but again, increased volumes and increased expenditure associated with grants, but also a large increase is to do with waste disposal and waste cost collections, which is offset by a domestic waste charge. So when you pay again, one of these restricted funds where you pay your rubbish as a part of your rates, the money that we pay as a part of your domestic waste levy goes towards your waste collection services. We cannot use that money on anything else. Depreciation, which I'll do a bit of a deep dive on, and this is quite a interesting one, is depreciation has gone up by almost 18% as well. So that is essentially funding our asset renewal. So that is how much per annum, an annualised cost of how the value of how our assets are deteriorating. So from an asset management perspective, we want to at least be funding our depreciation, so we're not going backwards from a financial perspective, but I'll take you through some of the financial pressures we've been experiencing the last 5 years in trying to fund depreciation against the rate peg. The last one, albeit immaterial, was other expenses going up by 1.72%. Bit small up there, but just to cover off, apologies, our Our FTE has gone up by 9.65%. So just to cover off some of those, we are investing a lot in our trainees. So we do have an ageing workforce. So we thought to counter some of that as they do transition to retirement, our workforce plan is catering for a number of new trainees to come in to supplement the workforce. So in some of the instances, in particular in the water and sewer, in the water services area, what we're doing is replacing vacant officer positions with splitting them into two roles into trainees. So we can at least get some traction in that recruitment space and hopefully fill those positions. So overall, there is movement in that space. The other area that has had an increase is the development and regulation space. So we're mitigating some financial risk in there, also investing in trainees in that space as well to ensure that we can deliver the services due to the increased volumes within that space. Just a quick summary, just a picture showing where our money is levied by managers. So again, each manager will come speak. So my area's got the rates area and the water services generate the water services and waste generate waste, but just a depiction of who is responsible for which areas of revenue. Just wanted to emphasise and touched on this earlier about our dependency on rates. So just showing on the left-hand side of the graph there that's our revenue including capital contributions broken down by different categories. So the graph on the right speaks a bit higher. It shows that almost 70% of our revenue comes from rates. So what we're trying to do is look at alternate revenue streams in the next couple of years to try and minimise our reliance on rates, so we're not having to, we can either expand services or we could not have to come we could have a look and see how we could better our services in that revenue space. So cut a long story short, we are looking at diversifying our revenue streams to try and maximise the services that we can deliver to the community. Just a quick breakdown, and again, this is getting into a bit of detail for those just to get an understanding of how we build our budget. So when we're looking at our rates and revenue items, it is made up of different components of rates. So you can see there's rates, there's business rates, general rates, farmland rates. There you've got your environmental levy in there as well, and stormwater management charge. So again, just a demonstration, just to show that when we do our budget breakdown, there are some complexities around how we calculate it, and it is made up of an amalgam of different functions. Same with user fees and charges. You'll see the larger fees and charges are relating to water supply charges there, but again, just for your interest, a breakdown of the key user fees and charges that form that revenue class. And lastly, from an income perspective, just other income. So this is the last category of other income. And again, just a listing of the key revenue items sitting in that space. Just looking at our draft budget by expense by category, you can see materials and services and employee costs are reasonably high, as with depreciation as well. So again, I'll take you through some of those costs shortly, but just looking at it by manager again, just to give you a feel for who's responsible for what, you'll see that the assets area has got the highest expenditure categorisation, predominantly relates to depreciation, but as you see, the labour intensive areas of Shire presentation and water services, the areas with the highest FTE have generally got the highest spends. Again, just a quick breakdown of what makes up our employee costs. So you can see there's salaries, superannuation, payroll tax, workers' comp, and so forth from there. So high level breakdown of some of the key items. Materials and services, same sort of thing here, just a high level breakdown just to demonstrate what makes up those materials and services breakdowns. And finally, other expense breakdown as well. So you can see there's a lot of levies that are attributable in that space. And it is just the bucket where I guess the accountants put all the other expenses. So as I was speaking about earlier, depreciation expenses. So we're a $2.7 billion asset council. So one of our largest expenses is depreciation. And what this slide is demonstrating is the increased financial pressure on council in trying to deliver and maintain and renew its assets as well. So just taking you through a high level 5-year average. So on average, our depreciation has been going up $4.2 million a year, which has been an 11.5% increase. And the rate peg, which is our primary source of revenue as demonstrated in that other graph, is going up by 3%. So we're kind of at this point where things are starting to, the financial pressure is starting to build. We're looking at other revenue sources, and we're looking at our business improvement program to make sure, and service reviews to make sure that we're working effectively in those spaces. But essentially there is a lot of pressure building due to the inflationary pressures that we're experiencing, and everyone experiencing as well. As we know, the cost of building and materials have gone up quite a bit. So compiling all those together, just wanted to paint the picture and set the expectation with council that this is a space that is going to have a lens over it in the next couple of years. And just highlighting some of those key changes. Just to recap some of the draft risks that we've got capturing and building the budget. So again, as we've called out in our quarterly reviews, we've had to make some adjustments to our budgets in relation to reliance on contractors and consultants within the development application space. So we have invested additional resources in that space, but if we don't fill those vacancies, again, there may be some financial risk heading into the 24-25 financial year. Workers' compensation is also at $2.2 million, so we just call that out as a risk because that one is, like grants revenue, a bit difficult to predict. We do have good controls in place, but again, it's a prediction based on our current predictions. We're also looking at some of the capital increases. So as projects evolve and as we go to market, costs are continually increasing. So calling out some capital expenditure risk as well, that as time goes on, costs are increasing as well. Depreciation, I've spoken about depreciation, so I've already covered that point. And just talking to the last one, in 2022-23, I think it was when I first got here, there was a resolution for a temporary 3-year pothole crew. So just advising council that the 3rd year of that will cease at the end of 24-25. In doing this, in producing our operational plan as a general manager advisor is a revenue policy as well that we need to attach to statutory requirements. So as a part of that statement of revenue, we need to talk about how we levy our rates, financial profit and losses, financial assistance and proposed loan borrowing. So we just wanted to advise council that in April, we will be putting a report to council on residential rate subcategories. We've spoken about previously and resolved by council about special rate levying for new living areas. We're looking at introducing part year rating and also, as resolved by council, the rate subsidy scheme to include community halls not operated by council. Just in regards to reporting, so again, the emphasis on financial transparency and maintaining financial transparency heading into a new council. Just wanted to recap some of the reporting updates that will be incorporated into the operational plan and will continue into a new council as well, which is the financial reporting, which basically takes in level 4. When we do adopt our budget, we will do reporting down to level 4. We've also put in a 4-year capital works program at a project level. So now you can see by road which project and which year those projects will be delivered in. So you could have a look and see which roads we're going to be working on at a detailed level. And again, Sean will touch on that a little bit from an assets perspective. We have also included the FTE and performance measures in the operational plan to level 4. Key movements of $20,000 in our operational budget, level 3 and level 4 during the quarterly budget review process. And we've also gone through as a part of putting today's agenda together to review the unfunded project list with some additional commentary, which will also be included as a part of the draft operational plan as an attachment to the council report when we come back to May. I think that's it for me. So Thank you. Thank you.
So, Manager Assets, Mr Robinson will now speak to the Capital Works program and outline what's proposed. Thank you.
Perfect. Apologies for my benefit. Are we doing questions right at the very end or after each manager?
At the
Very, very end. Okay. Okay, brilliant. We'll flick through. So looking at our 4-year works program, it's a significant undertaking from council with almost $400 million of expenditure budgeted for the next 4 years. There is a couple trends worth noting in the first instance, just across the 4 years there. That being that of the almost 400 million, 250 is for water and wastewater projects, which is 64% of that total program value. Of that, 137 million is for the 3 sewage treatment plant upgrade projects alone. And so that just helps highlight the significance of those 3 projects, with them being, those 3 projects alone being over 1/3 of the total capital program value. The other trend I just want to draw a note to is that really from year 2 onwards, expenditure in the other asset classes largely returns to a focus on primarily asset renewal. That is just the management of the existing network in accordance with its deterioration. Before I jump into some highlights for next year's program, I would like just to spend a couple moments talking about how the program is developed and how the projects are identified. And for that, it's critical to understand that there are 2 very distinct types of capital projects, one being for new and upgrade projects, the other being for asset renewal. So new and upgrade projects are self-explanatory in that they're new and upgrades, but the critical part is that they are in addition to the existing asset network. So a good example being the Bonbon Common play space, where that's a brand new play space where there wasn't one previously. As a general rule, new and upgrade projects should be generated from approved strategies and plans, and that they should ideally be primarily funded through grant funding opportunities, developer contributions, or other income sources like the stormwater levy. It is the funding component that is the most common constraint, though, of these new and upgrade projects, and so their delivery can also be opportunistic, dependent upon grant funding opportunities that are available. The developer contributions also currently, they are used to fund a number of projects within the water and sewer space. However, the contribution plans for roads and open spaces is quite poorly structured currently, and so its use for new and upgrade projects is quite limited in its current form. And so for that reason, over the coming financial year, those 2 contributions plans are to be reviewed, which will then provide further opportunity for future years in the program. Looking at renewal projects, so that's the reconstruction of the existing asset network. Keeping with the play space theme, a good example is Ritchie Park in Moss Vale, where that was a deteriorated, tired-looking play space, which was then renewed with a new play space. The critical part is that we want our renewal expenditure to largely align with the rate by which the asset network is deteriorating. Simply just the idea of we need to keep up. And so that rate of deterioration can be equated to the value of depreciation. And so that depreciation level for the different asset types essentially sets then a target level of investment across those asset types, with then projects nominated up to that value based on their underlying asset condition. And so that provides a bit of an understanding as to how we get to the program. But the upshot is that for 24-25, we have a $100 million program that consists of over 100 projects. And so it is a complex process in terms of how we land on the final outcome. I know roads is a point of interest, and rightly so, within the Shire. So just spending a bit of a spotlight on roads in terms of how does the asset type of roads then flow into the program that we have presenting today. Within the Wingecarribee, we have a local road network of 1,200 kilometres, which is a significant amount of roads. If you were to lay them all out in one continuous stretch, it would take us all the way from here in the Civic Centre to Gympie up in Queensland past the Sunshine Coast. Many regional councils are similar, but it does just help to highlight the significance and the magnitude of which this asset type is that we're working with. So in 2023, we engaged industry experts Infrastructure Management Group to do a full network inspection of the local road network. The results of this will be shared more fully at the April council meeting. However, as a general summary, we can see here this was the result of the surface condition index from that road network audit. They do a pavement condition index and then a surface on the top. So just looking at the surface, the critical upshot here is that for condition 4 and 5, which is the threshold for capital renewal, about 20% of the road network is sitting in that condition 4 and 5, which I believe is reflective of if we were to drive around the network for what one would perceive. As part of the engagement with IMG, they also prepared a prioritised works program to identify how we can best address, I guess, these the road segments that are of condition 4 and 5. And so they identified there's a prioritised works program in 4 packages to the value of $36.5 million that is required to address these condition 4 and 5s. The good news is that we are well able to accommodate those works within the 4-year program. However, the part that we need to also understand is that that's for the fixed moment in time from 2023. And so we need to not just address those roads that were identified in 2023, because across the 4-year program, roads that were in satisfactory condition will slide into an unsatisfactory condition. And so this is a rudimentary modelling that I've done to show if council was to solely invest the $36.5 million of roadworks that are required as identified now, fast forward 4 years, and unfortunately we would then have 25% of road surfaces in condition 4. And so I do that exercise to highlight that it's not solely about addressing what we have right now, but it's about keeping up with that rate of deterioration, which we estimate is depreciation for the road network, which is in the order of $13 million a year. And so our level of investment across the 4 years needs to be not just the 36, but more in the order of the 52 million. And then doing the similar modelling, if we are able to maintain that level of renewal investment across the 4 years, it results in a much more satisfactory outcome, where we get to the end of year 4 and we're left with little to no roads in condition 4 and 5. So on that basis, we have populated the capital works program for all 4 years, but with a focus on next financial year with the results of the IMG road condition audit, and that enabled us to take a fair and consistent approach as to which local roads are nominated within the capital works program. For 24-25, we have a financial investment of $9.3 million across 55 locations, consisting of a number of different types of road renewal works. I know I just mentioned that really we want to see a target of $13 million, but 9.3 is the current arrangement that we are able to accommodate, given the financial constraints that the CFO has just run us through. We are hopeful with the announcement of the Strengthened Roads to Recovery program from the federal government that will go a long way in meeting the gap, as well as any further grant funding opportunities that the state and federal governments make available. Here we have a bit of an overview of where those locations are for the road renewal program across the Shire for 24-25. I'm not intending us to know which roads they are from this map, but that just helps to highlight that it is a spread across the Shire in terms of where those road renewal works will be completed. As part of the public exhibition process, there will be an online map made available through which residents will be able to much more clearly see what are those specific roads. I'll just move now through a number of other project highlights we have for next financial year and just do a short commentary around those. So first up we have the animal shelter and SES. So this is a fantastic facility for the hard-working volunteers of both the shelter and the SES. The project is currently in construction and is on track for completion by the end of the calendar year. We have Yarramble Public Toilets, so with a construction budget of $300,000 for next financial year. As per the recent resolution from Council, MF Vickers Park will be the location for the new public toilet facility. It will be of a prefabricated design and will be great value to the community given its central location between the train station, community centre and the play space. We have the Civic Centre back office refurbishment. So this is a significant project to complete the larger refurbishment of the Moss Vale Civic Centre. The project seeks to achieve compliance with current BCA standards for the back office, as well as modernise the workspace. So that's a total investment of $4 million across the 2 years, with $2 million sitting in 24-25. We have David Wood playing fields play space. So that's on track now for construction in the 24-25 program. This is a fantastic project that's been delivered in partnership with the local community organisation, the 4K. The detailed design has gone through a protracted stakeholder and community engagement process, with construction now to be completed as part of the 24-25 program. It will be a significant asset for not only East Bowral, but I'd believe the larger region as well, given that it will cater for all ages and a number of different activities, with the inclusion of a pump track, learn to ride facility, Ninja Warrior teen sort of space, as well as their more classical play elements as well. We have also a play space renewal at Centennial Park, also in Bowral. So this is looking to just simply renew an aged and deteriorated existing play space. Whilst doing the renewal, we'll also take the opportunity to better utilise that parkland through a relocation of the actual play space itself, which will then enable a future expansion of the dog park. Master plan is currently in preparation for this reserve, with the community consultation phase ending earlier this month. We have Welby landfill remediation, which is the remediation of the old tip site in the back of Welby. As part of the project, the opportunity has also been taken to ensure that the eastern and northern slopes of the landfill will be remediated such that they can accommodate the establishment of a mountain bike park as a future project. This will be, again, a fantastic outcome for the local mountain biking community, and will just further enhance the Welby mountain bike trails area. We have the construction phase of Ferguson Crescent bridge renewal. So this will be the renewal of potentially the last vehicular fully timber bridge in the Shire. The completion of this project will further enhance the resilience of the local road network, as well as provide pedestrian access along this section of road. It's been fully funded from Transport for New South Wales, and it's currently in design phase, nearing completion of design. Next up, we have the new footpath program with an overall budget of $500,000, with the funding source being general revenue. In keeping with the opportunistic nature of our new and upgrade projects, we've submitted a number of applications to the Get New South Wales Active 24-25 grant program to the sum of $2.4 million. In keeping with the opportunistic nature, if those applications are successful, these funds will be used as the co-contributions to those projects, with the understanding that successful applications are to be announced in April 2024. If none of the applications are successful, the funds will then be utilised to deliver a combination of design projects for critical links, as well as the construction phase of a number of missing segments across the Shire. It's intended, if Transport for New South Wales is able to follow those announcement timeframes, that hopefully we'll have the final outcome reflected in that which is going to go on public exhibition. We also have a number of drainage renewal and upgrade projects to be completed across the Shire, I believe in the order of 11. Total value of $6.4 million. The catalyst, the source of these projects is varied. Priestley Street, Mittagong, Robinson Street, Mittagong. These are the culmination of finally delivering the natural disaster repair works from the 2020 flooding events. Some of the others are simply asset condition based, others are identified in adopted drainage master plans, and some are just to address localised flooding complications across the Shire. I do note the very last one there, Penrose Road, Penrose. It's not currently reflected in the capital program attached to today's meeting. However, it will be reflected in that which will be released for public exhibition. And so that will see the establishment of curb and gutter along Penrose Road there within the CBD of Penrose. CBD, town centre, village centre of Penrose. We have the first of our three sewage treatment plant upgrades. So Bowral Sewage Treatment Plant currently within construction, and that'll see the capacity of the plant upgraded from 14,500 to 21,000 EP. Almost the fundamental parameter with each of these three sewage treatment plant upgrades is that we want to find the balance. We want to basically be able to optimise the efficiency of our treatment to maximise capacity while still remaining within our neutral or beneficial effects requirements from Water for New South Wales. And so with Bowral Sewage Treatment Plant, this project will see us basically get as close as we can to those targets to maximise the efficiency of technology. And then beyond that, it'll be more so a matter of reuse and recycle. But this project's on track for completion in 25-26. Similar, Moss Vale Treatment Plant, an upgrade from 9,000 EP to 20,000 EP to cater for future development and growth of the area. The project has completed detailed design and it's intended that the construction tender will reach determination as part of the April council meeting. Third one is Mittagong Sewage Treatment Plant. The project's currently in detailed design. Construction phase is required. However, given the significant financial investments that each of these sewage treatment plant projects is proving to be, I guess the final construction timeframes will be subject to further review in light of financial, outcomes from Moss Vale Sewage Treatment Plant. And so the delivery of this project will be contingent on the receipt of funding from the state and federal government. I believe this is a reasonable assumption for council to hold, given that both Bowral Sewage Treatment Plant and Moss Vale Sewage Treatment Plant have been delivered with that combined support. And then on the final stretch, we have three large water projects, all that are interrelated. So the first one is the duplication of Hill Road Reservoir. This project's been funded both from Council's Water Fund, but also through a VPA with Ashbourne Estate. There's also then a new water main to be constructed, providing a more direct connection between Wingecarribee Water Treatment Plant and the Hill Road Reservoirs. This project's still in design phase. Given the magnitude of it and the number of land tenures and design complexities associated with it, it's not forecast for construction to commence really until mid to late 25-26. However, that may still be subject to revision pending outcomes with landowners. But that's to provide a more direct connection and a more resilient water supply source for Moss Vale, but also really for the wider network. And our final project is the upgrade of Wingecarribee Water Treatment Plant. Just the continuation of the design phase for 24-25. Construction scheduled more so for the later years of the 4-year program. The purpose of this project is twofold. One is to strengthen the treatment process itself, but also to see an increase in the treatment capacity from 40 megalitres a day to 60 megalitres a day, which is required to ensure the resilience of water supply for the Shire to cater for future growth. And also, as per previous resolution of council, it will become the sole water supply source for the Wingecarribee water supply network. And I believe that brings us to a close.
Thank you.
Okay, putting on my directorate hat. So in the, Sean, you have to give me the clicker back. So in terms of the Office of the General Manager over the next 12 months, we'll be preparing the onboarding or rolling out the onboarding and professional development program for the incoming council. So that will see the balance of the candidate sessions as well as the preparation of training for that first 12-month period. We'll be in our final year of Horizon 1 of our roadmap, and a key focus over the next 12 months will be further refining the asset management plan work that the manager assets have spoken about, finalising the integrated transport strategy as well as preparing an infrastructure and servicing strategy, and continuing to advocate for priorities within the Shire. In terms of the principal activity around civic functions and councillor support, again, working with the incoming council, the mayor and the councillors around a program of civic events as they enter their first term. In terms of the operating budget, it's proposed in line with what the CFO mentioned to introduce a new administration trainee in next year. And again, the purpose of that is we do have an ageing workforce across the organisation. We are going to continue to see retirements over the next 5 to 10 years. And it's important that we bring in young people at entry level and they can grow their careers. Many of the management team, including me, started off as students in local government. There's also an increase in expenditure associated with both the election costs of around $440,000 funded through the reserve, and also an increase in terms of councillor expenses for that first year to get them up and running. In terms of the capital, as the manager assets mentioned, there is funding for the refurbishment of the back office, apart from non-compliance issues with stairs. Most of the timber windows at the rear have wood rot in them. The glass within the window frames is loose, and there is very little thermal property in them. So it'll also result in energy efficiencies and better safety. I'll now hand over to the Exec Manager, People and Culture. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. So in People and Culture, we have two principal activities. The first is Human Resources, which I'm about to speak to. So we have a couple of priority actions in our 2024-25 year. And with that, some of the things that we're looking at doing is updating our current policies and procedures in line with the legislation and the award. In addition to that, we've also got a focus on our workforce strategic plan, particularly with regards to attracting new employees to the workforce, but also retaining our current skilled staff. We're looking at building our manager capability along with our own staff as part of our retention program, and with that we're rolling out education and training, and this will also help us to support our current policies and procedures that we're developing at present. In addition to that, which has been discussed quite a bit already this evening, is a target to actually achieve 5% of our workforce of positions in training. And with that, we're looking at positions being apprentices, trainees and cadets, and encourage people to actually come on board in those roles. The other principal activity that we have is our policy strategy and organisational development. We're working with TAFE to actually pilot innovative programs, again to target our in-training positions, and actually looking at our workforce, particularly with regards to our ageing workforce and how we transition those staff into retirement. In addition to that, our employees are one of our greatest assets, so we're looking at developing and implementing a health and wellbeing plan, which will be a plan that we will actually progress for a 4-year period. And in order to retain our current talent and workforce, we're looking at developing an employee reward and recognition program that we're looking at rolling out in the 2024-25 period. With regards to our budget, just a very high end overall, there is a change with regards to our salary costs, because as part of our salary review, we've actually now allocated that budget into the different cost centres across the whole of council, so there is a bit of a change in there for the 24-25 year. In addition to that, we've actually lowering our recruitment costs, particularly with regards to some efficiencies that we're gaining, and also just the way in which we're actually recruiting positions across the in the way with which we're recruiting positions, we're actually decreasing the costs associated with recruitment. And then also with regards to training, it's a key target for us to attract our current staff and retain staff. And what we're doing in that space is increasing our training budget by 22K just to accommodate for inflation with regards to that. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that. Can I just ask a question? I've got a couple of other ones, but just where I remember this one. What Sally was saying is you're reallocating that amount was provided in the current budget for the salary system.
So what was meant by that was that there was an amount put in a, for want of a technical term, a bucket, and we've just finalised the salary system refresh. I'd like to say that the review of the salary system was first, as to my understanding, first mooted back in 2012. There have been 3 attempts at fixing the salary system, and it was one of the first things that was raised with me when I commenced as the General Manager in late June 2021, and pleased to announce we've actually finalised that with working with the 3 unions. We have 3 unions, and working productively and constructively with them, as well as the staff and people in culture and finance. So in provisioning in the budget for 23-24, there was an allocation made. Now that the salary system's been worked through and approved, then that will now be redistributed across the various branches.
So when the actual draft budget goes on public exhibition, there'll be an explanation, because when you read through this documentation, you see these increases.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, well, look, I think congratulations to all, because it must be a sigh of relief for the employees as well, who have been, I don't want to say what I think about that, but, they haven't been treated well up till now.
Now, Mr. Killick, Executive Manager, Strategic Outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. Mr. May, fellow residents. Strategic Outcomes, we have 3 principal activities within Strategic Outcomes, and we like to think of ourselves as the enablers within Council. So looking at one of the first principal activities, I'm very glad to report after a bit of a hiatus, we look to appoint our economic specialist in the next month. But looking at the 24-25 financial year, revitalising the draft economic development strategy and turning that into an action-oriented live document that's delivery focused would be priority number 1, and very much engaging with business, industry, and really implementing some of those recommendations from the Small Business Commissioner's report. Moving on to one of our most cherished projects, the Southern Highlands Innovation Park. The priority actions there are a direct sort of continuation of the existing work, which is the Southern Highlands Innovation Park, or affectionately known as the SHIP, master plan, governance strategy, and strategic positioning paper, together forming our business case. And of course, moving on to actually implementing that master plan, which is ensuring that we make the relevant planning amendments, so LEP, local environmental plan, and development control plan amendments, so that we are ready for future DAs, and we very much streamline the future DA process by doing that regulatory work, that strategic work upfront. And it's of course guided in the long term by our governance strategy, which essentially says what is council's role, what are landholders' roles, and what's the state's role in such a regionally, if not state significant, employment generating precinct. And the emerging vision, just to share that imagery there, which I like to call industrial lux, I think works very well in the Southern Highlands, and that is very much the aspirational emerging vision for the Innovation Park. Moving on to our next principal activity, being strategic policy. In the 24-25 financial year, subject to the outcome of the continuing independent peer review of the draft community heritage study, we'd like to move to implement the findings of that peer review and that study, subject to the outcomes of July, August this year, and the gateway determination. Moving on to our comprehensive development control plan, essentially our rule book or guideline for development across the Shire, moving from essentially 14 separate DCPs into one coherent development control plan to again streamline that DA process, but also update some of our controls, which are in some cases over 10 years old. So we need to be market ready and very much respond to what's happening in the market, but also ensuring that any development proposals are in keeping with local character, and that's where the development control plan is our go-to document, and it's a live document in that sense. Our next principal activity area is strategy in place, and some of these projects are what get me really excited. Looking at 24-25, on the success of the Robertson Place plan, a multi-award winning village place plan, we'd like to move that model onto Bundanoon, and of course, in due course, other villages as well, with both place plans and place profiles for the smaller villages. Of course, again, off the success of the Bowral Town Centre Master Plan that has just come off public exhibition and the resounding support from the public, we'd like to, again, move that model to the other town centres, spread the love to the other town centres, and I think Moss Vale and Mittagong deserve that, and especially with Moss Vale, with the amount of investment coming online, as well as enabling infrastructure like the bypass, the Moss Vale bypass, incremental funding coming forward slowly but surely from the state. Of course, implementing the Bowral, the continuing work with the Bowral South New Living Area by 2025, we'll be ready to implement that master plan, which is really Bowral's main growth front over the next 3-4 decades. So we need to ensure that we get the planning framework right, the zoning right, the lot sizes and other details, and very much implement that master plan. And lastly, going back to the Bowral Town Centre Master Plan, we don't want a master plan to gather dust on the shelf. It's very much ensuring creating projects, discrete deliverable projects out of that master plan, and at the moment we have 7, focusing on the pedestrian spaces as well as the main street, of course, Bong Bong Street, and really investing in the public domain. And so ensuring that we have essentially what I like to call shovel-ready projects, designed, engineered, ready for tender in 24-25. Our operating budget, we look very good with the numbers, because I like to say we bring in the millions, but we only spend pennies. And that's because we bring in the developer contributions, the monetary contributions, as well as income from planning certificates. And we are a very lean team. I think hence why I like to use the term, we are very much the enablers within council. Thank you.
Okay, I'm back again. Just talking through finance, we have three primary streams being financial service. So we're a back of house support service. We also do issue rates notices, so there are a lot of contact with the ratepayers out there as well. So primarily providing back of house support services, but also we also issue water sewer notices and the rate notices as well. So just some of the key activities that we perform is we maintain council's long-term financial plan and the financial sustainability of council from a holistic perspective. We also need to complete the annual financial statement. So we go through the year, we go through an audit, and then that audit is presented to council. The auditors are the Audit Office of New South Wales, and they conduct an audit, but approximately takes 4 weeks every year. Also, as discussed earlier, we also look at opportunities for grants to supplement some of our existing programs and add to our additional programs as well. From a procurement and contracts perspective, we again support the organisation in going through and procuring for services, capital works, and also operating services. So we have a centre-led approach in providing procurement services. So we are looking at, again, holding some sessions with local businesses. We haven't held ours this year. We probably have ours in May this year, but look at engaging with the community to, I guess, teach the local businesses how to better engage with council and the procurement activities. Also, as discussed at council, there was a finance service review which was conducted, and some of the outcomes of that sat in the procurement and contract space, which we need to manage around probity and centre-led procurement. Finally, and as touched on previously, we issue rates notices. So my area is responsible for issuing the rates notices and the water notices. So systematically, we're looking at ways of doing that more efficiently. So this year we've implemented a direct debit platform where ratepayers can enter into a direct debit arrangement rather than having to fill in paper-based forms. So we're going to look at continuing some of those efficiency outcomes and also looking at developing a program to review our farmland rating categories. Just from a budget perspective, I've touched on it at a high level, but looking at the rates and charges, we do have an increase of 4.6%. Other key movements in my area are interest that we've spoken about previously. Also, just I guess an increase to the SES contribution that wasn't called out earlier of 120,000 based on advice from the state government. And just specifically in my area, looking at, we've changed banking service providers, and a part of that, we've reduced our bank fees as we do move into our digital platforms as well. Thank you.
Just a quick question. Interest on investments. Have you discounted the effect of what the state government owes us and the federal government owes us for emergency works, or is it's about 50,000 a month at the moment, isn't it, from recollection from the last agenda?
It is generally, yes, we have. So we've looked at our cash movements as we've moved across through that area. So we have gone a little bit softer in that space. It does move around with the reserve movement, so it's a function of interest rates and cash movements as well.
And I think it's pretty important for residents to understand also that interest on investments, it goes back to the source of the reserve. It just doesn't boost general fund, does it?
That is correct, yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'll be talking about the following areas: bookings and facilities, corporate information, customer experience, corporate systems and ICT operations. So within the facilities and bookings, council officers continue working with financial institutes with onboarding of the 355 management committees into Bookable. We anticipate the pilot group to be onboarded within the next month, and all the rest of the 355 committees to be in Bookable by the month of May. Moving over to corporate information now. So as part of Council's continual move to digitise records, Council officers have been have fast-tracked the bulk digitisation of physical records. We have sorted and shipped 575 boxes, with a further 400 boxes to be sent off-site. And for context, the box size is 310 by 390 millimetres volume. And we have partnered with a company by the name of Jigsaw, who's a service provider which employs people with disabilities, and we will continue utilising these services where possible. And with identifying and sentencing of records, this is a key activity when determining the scheduling and destructions of records. So this is a requirement under the Records Act to ensure we are meeting our statutory requirements. Moving over to customer experience now. So the reviewing and monitoring of the customer experience charter will be measured by utilising tools like surveys, customer direct feedback, and reporting from internal systems. This will continue to be monitored through the 24-25 financial year. And one of the major areas of focus over the last months has been the ability for customer experience staff to be able to resolve requests at first point of contact. Council officers have been able to achieve 85% of calls resolved at first point of contact. This has been achieved with further training and the utilisation of internal digital knowledge bases. With the corporate systems, a priority action is to ensure that Council uses automation where possible to improve on functionality and user experience. A number of key projects are underway, and one of them being the application tracker, which we're all well aware of. This is an example of a solution that improves on the customer experience and the functionality, and noting that this will be going live tomorrow. Another project that is underway is online payments, further reinforcing our commitment to digitising our solutions and services. Council staff have endorsed an ICT roadmap. This roadmap has allocated budget to back the ability to be able to deliver. The projects are focused on the three pillars, which are people, processes and technology. These project themes are cybersecurity improvements, strategic assets, HR solutions, data management, and an integrated approach to financials and procurement. Over to ICT operations. So we have implemented a backup solution, and we are in the process of finalising a thorough disaster recovery plan. These measures ensure our ability to maintain business continuity in the event of disaster. Also, cybersecurity is the top of priority for us, both at home and at work. We continually enhance our council's posture by implementing good practices across our systems and processes, keeping in line with the Essential 8 determined by the Australian Signals Directorate. This includes our ongoing monitoring and assessments. Over to the budget now. Overall, the budget over the year has seen some shifts, and this is mostly due to increase in software costs, due to indexation and an extensive audit that was completed across the organisation in respect to software renewals and subscriptions. And also we've seen a fair bit of consolidation across budgets, and moving forward we'll be able to predict growth in costs when it comes to licensing. Thank you.
Two questions. I know digitising of records is a resource-hungry
Correct.
activity. Was that going on with the council statutory obligations being followed? Well, before you arrived, to put it bluntly.
In terms of records management and sentencing?
No,
Or-
the digitising of all of the records to ensure that residents, if they want to, at the end of the day, can get easy access rather than just boxing and leaving. Was any process in place? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of, but the director may wish to comment.
Mr. May, there was a substantial backlog in place. Then we've put, these programs in now to ensure that we meet those obligations.
You're all very polite. In relation to the software costs,
Correct.
that's a risk area that you've addressed, is it?
Correct. That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I won't say any more.
Thank you.
So I'll be talking to governance and corporate performance. So we have 3 principal activities, which is governance, integrated risk management, and corporate strategy and business improvement. And like my colleagues before me, we provide a support service across the organisation to help enable them to deliver what they need to do, but also to make sure that we fulfil our statutory requirements. So the first principal activity is governance. There's a lot of work in the next financial year that's triggered by the local government election. So we will be working with the New South Wales Electoral Commission to conduct the local government election and prepare for that in September. We'll also be working in partnership with the General Manager's Office to develop and deliver a councillor induction program and professional development to make sure that they're ready to undertake their roles and clearly understand it. And also following the local government election, there are a number of statutory policies that we are required to review within the first 12 months of the councils being in place. So that's the councillor interaction policy, the code of meeting practice, which governs the rules around our council meetings, and also the code of conduct. In terms of integrated risk management, we'll continue to implement the actions from the Safe Work New South Wales enforceable undertaking, and that will be complete by the end of this year. We'll deliver on the projects from the State Cover Action Plan, which helps ensure that we're implementing improvements around work health safety, and also implement the integrated risk roadmap and action plan so that we strategically address the risks of the organisation. Again, strategy and business improvement is another area that, following a local government election, there's some statutory requirements that we need to fulfil. So part of that is preparing a State of the Shire report, which essentially is a review of how we're going in achieving our community strategic plan. We also look at our short, medium and long-term planning. The General Manager spoke to the integrated planning and reporting framework earlier in her presentation. So my team will work with the organisation to and the community to develop those documents. We're also working with the Canberra Region Joint Organisation to develop a regional community strategic plan, and also facilitating service reviews across the organisation to ensure that we achieve best value for the services we provide to our community. In terms of key budget movements, there is some increased costs for staff progressing across the salary system and the salary structure review. There is a reduction in workers' compensation from 2.6 million to 2.2. And in terms of materials and costs, there are some increases. So the insurance premium, there'll be some increases, particularly around public risk and property insurance. And again, with the local government election, the integrated planning and reporting review, there'll be some additional costs there, and we conduct a community survey every 2 years. So we need to budget for that to make sure we understand how the community feel about the services we provide to them.
Thank you. I'll talk through the business and property unit of council, branch of council. So for the principal activity of the animal shelter, as we discussed before, a new animal shelter is being built, so it will be necessary to establish operations at the animal shelter. Also, as a part of our community education, we're aiming to, again, reintroduce programs on responsible pet ownership, including desexing, microchipping and registration, which we used to undertake, but that hasn't happened for the past couple of years. So we're wanting to reintroduce that once the new shelter is constructed.
Our outside of school hours care service, as part of the Children's Services Review that was undertaken last year, we're looking to increase the number of out of school hour positions. We have actually increased that at the Mittagong Public School at the moment, but we're also looking to introduce other services across the Shire. We also are looking to increase our activities for the out of school hours educators day, as well as increase our vacation care programs at our existing service. With regards to property services, we're looking to complete a review and analysis of the Mount Gibraltar Telecommunications Tower to improve operations there. We're completing a review of all of our surplus roads to reduce the need to maintain those unformed roads and then also generate income. We're developing a property strategy and a property investment portfolio. The property strategy is to ensure that our assets are appropriately managed for the long-term benefit to the community, and the property investment portfolio actually feeds out, aligns with that, the portfolio to generate recurrent income to reduce our reliance on rates. The Southern Regional Livestock Exchange, we're looking to upgrade the sale yard software systems and IT infrastructure to streamline the activities during sale days. We want to undertake some works at the sale yards, which include refurbishing the canteen to enable the lease of the commercial area, replace the half gates to improve safety for the animals and the workers out there, complete internal painting of the walls and floors in the sale yards auditorium. There's been a significant amount of work that's been undertaken over the last couple of years, and this will complete those works. And we want to progress the recommendations from the agribusiness report to increase usage and leverage of the existing infrastructure that we have out there. With tourism and events, we are establishing a Visitor Economy Advisory Panel, a VEAP, to engage with industry and to inform council or to work with council to deliver campaigns. We want to undertake the upgrades to the Visitor Information Centre as part of, that's come out of the review that was undertaken last year and the report that was adopted early this year. Looking at introducing volunteering opportunities in tourism and events at the Visitor Information Centre and at the events that are held throughout the Shire. We're also looking to prepare a program for Barron Memorial Hall, looking at bringing other performances and events to the hall, promote that more broadly and have the hall on the circuit. So we maximise the utilisation and increase the revenue to maintain the facility. With the operating budget, generally the increases have come from the salary system review. We have children's services, the livestock exchange, animal shelter. A lot of those workers are in that area that will benefit from the service review, and but we do have a reduction in user charges and fees for children's services as we've discontinued the family daycare services, but we will be increasing the out-of-school hours care services as mentioned previously. We have a minimal correction in the FTE for a property officer that was not budgeted correctly in 23-24.
Thanks for that.
Oh, okay, sure, sorry.
Okay, so assets, we break our principal activities down into three groups. So we have a parks and buildings principal activity, roads and drainage, and water and wastewater. So I'll just run through those three and look at some of our most prominent actions for next financial year. So with parks and buildings, we're looking to continue a rollout of master plans with The first one noted, being as an action from the October council meeting, is for an update of the Lackey Park master plan to bring it back to a size and scale that is more appropriate of a community level facility. In keeping with that theme, for next financial year, we also have on track for completion of the business cases for a regional aquatic centre and for the multi-purpose indoor sports centre. An update on all three of those items will be provided to the April meeting. However, final completion of those items is not forecast until 24-25. We also have on the cards for next year is an update of both the accuracy and the user accessibility of Council's building asbestos register. Council currently does have an asbestos register, but it is difficult to access, and so as part of this project we'll be looking at creative ways such that building users are able to easily find that information. We're also looking to progress the strategic management of our cemeteries portfolio. For 24-25, part of that is through the preparation of master plans for 3 of the cemeteries, such that we can have the forward capital works required based on demand clearly identified. And then finally, look to do an update of the public toilet plan, but also a review of the parks strategy and the place-based strategy in light of the community recreation facilities strategy. And so all of those things will be updated to the more appropriate document level of a plan. Roads and drainage. One of our main, asset management maturity tasks for next financial year is to develop a framework such that we can do a consistent assessment and assessment of road categorisation and hierarchy. In accordance with our roads maintenance policy, roads are maintained in line with their assigned category and hierarchy. That primarily being that unsealed roads stay as unsealed roads, lower order roads remain as lower order roads. And so for next financial year, we need to develop a methodology such that if the nature of the road, the surrounding context has changed, there is then an opportunity to do a review of what is the assigned categorisation and hierarchy of that road. We'll also look to implement our road safety education program as we do each year and progress our asset management maturity for stormwater drainage, both through the preparation of drainage master plans, but also the collection of inventory data in a number of the villages. For water and wastewater assets, looking to progress our asset management maturity in this space through the commencement of a master plan process for the Mittagong sewer reticulation network. We've completed a similar process for Mossvale and Bowral this financial year, and so looking to complete that also for Mittagong. The first step of that is to do a calibration of the model through doing sewer flow and rainfall gauging. And then on top of that, once the model has been properly calibrated, that enables us to commence a master planning process such that we can identify what are the upgrades required to ensure that we can suitably cater for up till 2051. We'll also look to update our drought management policy in partnership with our neighbouring council and for really across all 3 principal activities. One of our main tasks will also be the implementation of the Tech 1 strategic assets model, which will be critical in enabling us to be able to model what will be our resultant asset conditions as a result of various funding models. Looking at the operating budget for assets, I think 3 main points of note are that there is a significant increase in our depreciation costs from the year prior in the order of about $7 million. So that is the result of the revaluation of the buildings asset class in this financial year, and also prior financial year, and the indexation of the asset classes. So with every year, we are required to complete a fair value assessment to see if there has been a material change in the value of those asset classes. With the high inflation environment we've been within, they have, and so all classes were indexed, and then we do comprehensive revaluations in accordance with the schedule. Minor increase in employee costs due to the progression through the salary system and the result of the salary structure review. And finally, there's not really a change in the materials and services budget, but it is notable, just the size. And so that budget does cover our street lighting costs, as well as our investigations and inspections budgets for the assets team. The lion's share of which will be with our wastewater team through that model calibration, manhole inspection, and then sewer master plan process.
Quick question. Is our cemetery, are our cemetery records digitised? Can someone go online and see if they have a relative buried somewhere, or?
No, we have digital records, but they're not publicly available through the website in that sense, or publicly accessible.
Are they in councils normally, do you know? Or?
So I have to take that on notice. Haven't had cemeteries before.
Well, good place to stay away from. But, yeah, I'm just interested, that's all. I know some councils you can look online and try and find somebody. I'm just interested, but I'm not going to interfere because what I'm hearing so far is I don't want to interfere with what you're doing because you all seem to have it under control.
Much appreciated.
My apologies. General Manager, Mr. May. I'm going to present some of the project delivery principal activities, but I'd like to start off by thanking Mr. Robinson from Assets for his awesome presentation into the capital program, and also for stealing most of my thunder because it's all wrapped up with what I'm going to talk about. Whilst the Assets team does some great work in identifying and formulating the delivery program, the delivery team actually executes that and designs and constructs and delivers a plan, in essence. So to start off, the first of the priority actions listed up there is the Wilby landfill remediation. Sean did touch on this considerably, but we have commenced a detailed design, which is in complete alignment with enacting the EPA's closure plan. We are anticipating submission of the development application in the coming months, and works are expected to commence in the coming financial year, with forecast completion being June 26. And as has also been expressed previously, enabling works are being incorporated into this design work to allow for expanded uses of the final site once remediated, which will more than likely include some form of mountain biking opportunities. The new animal shelter construction and SES is currently well underway. It's progressing at a good rate. All the in-ground services are now pretty much complete, and we're starting to see ground floor slabs being installed. Over the next few months, we'll see the building come out of the ground, and we're still focusing on a completion date in November of this year, and that is hugely weather dependent. Council officers are also continuing investigations in relation to the Barrel to Mossvale duplication main, which is a water main, duplicating the current line that is in existence. There have been significant issues and difficulties with the originally proposed route due to geotechnical conditions and what we found to be impassable rock. An alternate route has been selected, and negotiations have commenced in respect to land acquisitions and easement requirements. This project will increase the capacity to deliver water to the much needed areas in the growing Mossvale, and also provide the required redundancy to make sure we can service the residents accordingly. In terms of Barrel Sewer Treatment Plant, this is also progressing really well. Critical structures are all but complete. The bioreactor, which was shown in one of the previous photos, is currently under a water testing regime, and just to put this in some sort of scale, it's taken over 8 million litres of water to fill the reactor for this test. Works are well advanced on two of the clarifiers, or one of the two clarifiers has commenced, and numerous pump stations and inlet structures are also underway. The project is also currently on track for completion in late 2025. Mossvale Sewer Treatment Plant, tender process nearing completion. As Sean advised, this will be going up to council in April. with a report. The Mittagong Sewer Treatment Plant detailed design phase is well underway. There was a slight change in direction due to process adjustments required, and this was for the meeting of legislative and operational requirements. And the final item on the priority action plan is the development and implementation of a new project management framework. This bespoke framework is expected to be presented to Council in the coming months and rolled out to the delivery teams of the new financial year. This large body of work will provide staff across the organisation with consistent, structured and governed approach to delivering projects, complementing best practice and enhancing systems already utilised by Council. In terms of our second grouping of principal activities, it's the road and drainage arm of project delivery, and this is Council's in-house engineering and design section, which undertakes works for designing and delivering council roads and drainage projects. This team also provides design, technical and engineering support to numerous parts of the organisation, including Shire presentation, assets and planning and development. As described in the priority action, the key focus is to provide these designs and construction for road and drainage programs of work. Projects such as the construction of Sunninghill Avenue drainage will be constructed over the next 2 years, with designs either completed, underway or out to tender for all of the other priority actions listed on that screen.
Just on that screen, it took a long time, but now it's in black and white for the Penrose residents.
Thank you. In terms of our operating budget, there's really not much to see within project delivery, as most of our costs are capitalised, and the only main variances that are demonstrated there on the slide merely represent changes in methodology regarding how the allocation of true costs for wages and expenses are capitalised and captured in project budgets. And just to touch back on capital expenditure, it's quite clear that the level of capital investment over the next few years demonstrates our commitment to infrastructure improvement in the Shire. The delivery teams are looking forward to tackling these massive challenges within the program and engaging with the community to provide exceptional outcomes for the Shire. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. I'm delivering this part of the presentation, seeing that Adam Mills, who is the manager Shire presentation, is on leave today. Within Shire presentation, most of the focus is on business as usual and maintaining our council assets. But what we will be talking to today is the priority actions on top of like business as usual. So in civil construction, the civil construction team delivers most of the projects that are designed by the in-house team within NETS area. And the 3 road projects that we will be delivering the coming financial year are Elizabeth Street in Mossville, Railway Parade in Mittagong, Orchard Street in Coloville, and there's also 2 major drainage projects that are scheduled for Willowville, and they form part of the Capital Works programme. Then in the customer service and business support area at the Mossville Depot, we are continuously looking at improving our customer service and ways to do that. One of the methods that have been implemented are QR codes in our parks and open spaces, where residents can provide feedback on their experience in those parks and open spaces, and we will be reviewing the data that comes in as part of that to see where we can improve. Also, we have key performance indicators where we are looking at where our strategic priorities should be. We also undertake customer surveys to understand where we can improve our level of service in the Shire presentation area. We also continue to refine and improve our internal processes where we can. Then in the fleet area, we deliver Council's fleet replacement program to ensure that our operational departments can function to the best of their abilities and meet the service requirements. We also have an apprentice recruitment to support local employment, and also the succession part that we have spoken about before to deal with our aging workforce and get some young blood into the organisation. We're also developing workshop service level agreements to improve our financial viability, and we improve our plant utilisation by continuously reviewing if we're actually utilising plant and where we might need to purchase plant, where we might hire plant currently. So we're reviewing that to ensure that we deliver to the best of our abilities. Then in the open spaces and buildings area, that also includes our tree team. So we're looking at our protecting our trees to minimise urban heat, attract investment so that we can undertake tree planting programs, and also attract funding to ensure that we can prioritise meeting our obligations in relation to code and compliance standard in our council-owned buildings. Then in the parks and open spaces area, priority actions are maintaining safe and accessible open space so that our residents can recreate in those areas and participate in sports. We incorporating priorities from community surveys into our open space maintenance schedules so that we can see where we need to improve our service in response to the community's needs. Then in the infrastructure maintenance area, there's obviously a lot of business as usual in that area, but we're also looking to establish a governance framework to improve our policies relating to infrastructure maintenance across the Shire. We have a specialist engineering team. Currently, they are quite occupied with the disaster recovery claims, as well as like we have certain projects that now have been approved for implementation, and they will commence delivery of those projects. And obviously the second point is dear to our heart, making sure that we actually get the money back that council has expended during the floods. In relation to the operating budget, we have an internal income increase for fleet. All that is accurately reflecting the recovery of the fleet plant and fleet charges from the other departments. And there's also the salary structure review that we have seen in other presentations that have increased salaries. And we have also got a new apprentice landscaper. Previously we had that position, but it was funded from contractors. So again, it's making sure that it's accurately reflected in the budget. And also there's an increase in materials and services. What we like to do is make sure that in our gravel resheeting program, our grading program, we actually have the materials available so that we don't just grade the roads and they continuously go down, but that we actually can bring materials in. So that's also reflected in the budget.
Apologies. Look, two quick questions. The 5% traineeship apprenticeship is obviously well progressing. I think we should be selling that to the local community about opportunities for locals at their local council. I know you had a school session. You're having another one, are you? Oh, goody. I just think it's something I was unaware of, that you have now a 5% commitment to getting locals, in effect, working at the council from a young age. I think that's to be applauded. The other question, and I should have asked Sean, but you're the boss, I can ask you. Did I hear him correctly that as a result of the condition survey of roads, you will be presenting a 1 year and then a proposed 4 year, so residents can look to see if they have any opportunity at all of their road being improved in the next few years? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, there's a 4-year detailed works program with road segments listed for all 4 years.
That's fantastic.
Sorry, Mr. Mellor, before you start, just to add to the comment about the Careers Expo. So on Wednesday, the 22nd of May, we'll be running a session in the evening for parents and their young children, teenage children, with some of the key local employers around career opportunities locally. And then the next day, we'll be having our Careers Expo at Council. So that's when we showcase all the various trades, professions we have, from IT to resealing, horticulturalists, water and sewer. Last year we had just under 300 local high school students through, and we anticipate this year to grow. So thank you, Mr. Mellor, over to you.
Thank you, General Manager. Mr. May. The Water Services branch is made up of core activities grouped under 4 coordinated areas: water and wastewater treatment, water distribution, wastewater network, and depot and maintenance activities. The depot and maintenance teams, covering mechanical and electrical skill sets, will be focusing on pumping capabilities as the priority action for the coming year. Between the water and wastewater functions, there are nearly 100 pumping stations in the networks around the community. This function is critical to network operations for both the water and wastewater sides of the service. They will also be focusing on control systems upgrades, which provide visibility and control to the treatment teams. The focus for both the water and wastewater treatment teams remains on quality. Quality of drinking water for the community health from the 2 water treatment plants, as well as the quality of treated wastewater effluent released to the environment from the 6 sewage treatment plants, which flows downstream to the drinking water catchments that feed Sydney. The effectiveness and reliability of the treatment systems are paramount to achieving this, hence the focus on plant checks, upgrades to equipment, and monitoring systems as priority actions in this space. The integrity of the wastewater network is maintained to maximise capability of the sewer system. The priority here is to facilitate the hydraulic capacity through airflow and address issues urgently to avoid health risk to the community and environmental impacts. Proactive operational works in this area are already helping to reduce reactive requirements, and a positive cycle continues. The pressurised water network distributes our high-quality products straight to the community. To maintain the high levels of service with regard to continuity of supply, the team will be focusing their priority on reactive maintenance to carry out repairs, whilst minimising impact on customers' quality of supply and overcoming the challenges that they face. Income from the services provided is anticipated at nearly $41.5 million per year. Expenditure is expected to be under $36.5 million, with a net operating result of over $5 million. The costs related to the service have been increased based on CPI at 7%, and reserves anticipated to grow based on a 5% investment interest rate. The FTE, the full-time equivalent staff members, has grown by 2 members of staff as we invest in trainees to help build a skilled future for staff capabilities, succession plan, and anticipate retirements in an ageing workforce. The employee costs have grown due to staff progressing through the salary system and a new salary structure reviewed above award. One notable increase in internal expenses is predominantly due to increased funding of appropriate projects through the sewer reserve, for example, the Welby landfill remediation project. Thank you. That concludes the Water Services presentation.
Look, I've heard Mittagong, Bowral and Moss Vale sewage treatment plants quite a bit today, but there'll be that'll be expanded on when the budget goes out, obviously. I get blown away when I get the occasional briefing note to say what happened overnight, and your team's working overnight to make sure that when people flush their toilets, they work, and when they turn on the tap, they work. So, I think it needs to be recognised.
I'm very proud of the team and the work they do. And thank you for the other members of Council working with us to ensure that we provide good service for the community in the future.
Thank you, General Manager and Mr. May. So I'm presenting on community life and libraries. So my principal activities are communications and engagement, community development, library services, and place management. So as we've seen this afternoon, Council is delivering a significant amount of capital works projects, as well as strategies, plans, council elections, as well as business as usual. So the comms and engagement team is a newly formed team. So the positions individually existed, but now it all is consolidated into one team. We're a small team of 4, but we're a mighty team, and our role is to market, to engage with the community and inform the community about everything that council's doing. So we are supported across the organisations by the various teams, but it's really our job to ensure that we're informing the community in a timely manner. We're engaging, we're listening to the community, and then we're closing the loop with the community. So 3 of the main areas that we're focusing on in 24-25 is to ensure that the way in which we inform the community is relevant, it's timely, and it's in a various form of medium. So it may be face-to-face, so village meetings, it may be through podcasts, media, website, socials, etc. But also that we recognise that, we range from young children all the way up to older people. So we need to change the way in which we communicate and the language that we use. So that will be a key focus for the team. We'll also be developing and implementing community engagement program, and what that means is everything you've seen tonight, we will then look at what do we need to engage on? Is it about informing the community, or is it actually, the way I like to consider it, is it rocks or is there Play-Doh? Does the community get to change the outcome? So for example, with playgrounds, do the community get to choose whether it's a swing or there's healthy ageing equipment, so for grandparents as well as children to be able to utilise. So we'll work with the teams to develop plans, and it's from the beginning of the engagement activity all the way to closing the loop. So, and that will be available for everyone to see. And obviously, we do a lot of good things here at Council. So it is about marketing what we do and sharing the good news that we do with the community. So because there are some incredible projects. So we'll continue on that path of sharing those stories. Community development, so this also includes cultural development. So there's a number of plans that are coming to the end of their life cycle as such, including the arts and culture strategy, the community safety strategy, and as well as the youth strategy. So the team will be reviewing and developing new plans that then again we'll be engaging with the different stakeholders on. Council for the first time will be implementing the new Reconciliation Action Plan. So that will be a reflect wrap. It's the first time Council's ever had a Reconciliation Action Plan that really focuses on the organisation, but the team will work across the organisation to deliver that. We're also looking at how we develop welcome new residents packs and also promote to new residents about living in the Shire. For some people, they've never lived in bushfire prone areas. What does that look like? What does that mean? And some of the villages are doing incredible things with welcoming new residents, and it's about also providing that within our town centres as well. We'll also continue to develop a range of programs that support resilience, social connectedness, that celebrate the diversity of our community, and we really rely on in this team a lot of grants. So our team's busily applying for grants with the grants officer that was mentioned previously to be able to roll out a range of those activities. 2 of the positions I will just add in community development. One is a community resilience officer. We have in principle support that role will continue till September, but that role will then finish. So that will appear within the budget. But also we do have an Aboriginal Community Development Officer role that is grant funded, and we've been informed today that that's under review by the state government in terms of the funding. So again, there may be some changes in 24-25. We have a place liaison officer, and Alison in the audience knows she works closely with Gillian, so we provide support to all the villages through that role. So we work with all the villages to identify collaboration, any opportunities to run projects. So for example, this year we saw the rollout, thanks to the administrators' feedback as well, about playgroups in a number of villages. So we'll continue to collaborate with the various villages on what types types of programs and how we can partner, and also looking at where there's grant opportunities together. One thing that I'm really excited about that is new for Wingecarribee is that we are developing a place portal as well. So that will be on our Participate Wingecarribee platform. So that's our online engagement platform, and each village will be able to identify with these capital works projects with what's happening in your village, and that's where you can have your say, or you'll be updated. So even when you're looking at, is your pothole being fixed, your road being fixed, that will be on that place portal. So that will roll out, the building of it will start to roll out in 24-25. Finally, library services. So there's a lot of work we need to do within libraries. So we're finalising our library strategy in 24-25. There's been a lot of talk about digitisation today. So our local studies collection is not digitised. So we have a wealth of information that is, people have to come in and view it and book time to view it. So we're looking at applying for grants on how we can digitise parts of our collection and obviously to preserve community memory. We're also extending how we develop and deliver outreach activities. So we do have the mobile library. We've got a grant in at the moment. We're waiting to find out if we're successful to roll out a new fitted out mobile library that's a bit more accessible, and then working again with Jill and the community development team as well as the engagement team to run engagement activities out through the villages. And finally, we'll be updating our library website. So we're currently, after 23 years, implementing a new library management system, so basically a catalogue. And then we'll be, we did have a catalogue, don't get me wrong, it wasn't paper. But it is about a new library management system, and then we'll do the website. So in terms of the operating budget, my budget's quite small compared to some of the other teams, but as I mentioned, the comms and engagement team came together as one team. So some of the changes are really that those individual budgets that were sitting with other managers have come across to my team. For example, parts of the website sat in George's team, so that's come across now to my budget, as well as the positions that were sitting in other teams. As has been mentioned tonight, the salary review system saw increased costs for library salaries, as well as then staff moving through the salary system. And there was just a minimal correction needed in terms of staff establishment from a part-time position that was actually full-time. I think that's it.
I'm not going to let you get away. A quick question. I went to the Community Circle's first birthday event yesterday, which was very well attended, and both our local members attended also. As you know, my ears prick up when people mention money or grants, from the council that is. They were saying that they're coming to an end with their state and council grants. They can apply under our grants policies, or?
So my understanding is that, yes, their funding has come to an end in terms of the council funding component. They may be able to apply for club grants, but we'll work with them to find other forms of funding.
Thank you. I'm not saying one way or the other,
No.
I'm just
Yep.
inquiring.
Thank you, Mr. May, and thank you, General Manager. I'll be discussing the development assessment and regulation area of council, and the three principal activities being compliance and regulation, development engineering services, and development assessment. As you'd expect, this area of council deals with a number of council's regulatory responsibilities, and the three principal activities and priority actions, I should say, for 24-25 are based around the key day-to-day activities, including on-site sewage management systems, food inspections, swimming pool inspections, engineering services. So this includes Section 68 approvals under the Local Government Act, Section 138 applications under the Roads Act, subdivision work certificates, subdivision certificates, and development applications, including pre-DA support, and providing 2 community information forums per annum, noting that the success of the 2 forums that were held earlier this month. The operating budget for next year is largely based around providing the essential services to the community and ensuring that we have a focus on employee costs to provide 6 new full-time equivalent roles in the development, assessment and regulation area to assist in meeting the priority actions for next year and trying to reduce the need for the use of consultants.
Thanks. Quick question. Did I hear Dennis right that your people have to deal with 14 different DCPs across this shire?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. May. I'm presenting the Environment and Sustainability Program, which is made up of 3 service areas, namely the Bushland and Biosecurity, Natural Resource Projects and Sustainability Services. First program area, this program provides bushland management services to Council's vast network of bushland reserves. This improves the management of community land, which the public can access and enjoy. The network of properly functioning reserves increases the health and biodiversity of the Shire and supports the landscape of the Shire, supports economy and also community wellbeing. Council encourages community volunteer participation in this area. The Biosecurity Weeds program includes inspections of community, private, commercial premises and also retail outlets to prevent the spread of biosecurity weeds. Key inspections of high-risk pathways and education components are included in this program. Natural Resource Projects program area delivers projects and programs that conserve and enhance natural resources. We work to improve outcomes for threatened flora and fauna. Significant projects in the coming year include joint projects with the state on our continuation of our Koala project and also the Southern Highland Shire woodland. The program area also addresses bushfire hazard and on council land and also the implementation of cultural burning on council reserves. Sustainability services. The program provides a wide variety of advisory and support services, both for internal and also for our community. And this includes a number of events for our community, and we also provide support of our community through the environmental component of the Community Assistance Scheme. Council continues to work internally to improve our energy efficiency in the organisation, and we will continue to monitor and report on our greenhouse gas emissions from our organisation. In terms of our operating budget, this program area includes the Environment Levy program and includes a number of grants that we have been successful for obtaining for the next year, and also anticipate a number of regular grants that we will continue to tap into. A couple of key budget movements are highlighted there on the page. A number of those decreases reflect the finalisation of a number of grants, and it also notes their increasing of some services that we will be providing to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. May and community, in talking about waste, I did want to set the environment or set the scene, particularly because waste as an industry is currently quite dynamic. We're faced with landfills that are filling up. We're faced with uncertainty in new technology, whether that be energy from waste or things like biodigesters. That is coupled with uncertainty from investors, because they are being faced with quite a volatile commodity market. They're being faced with delays in coordination across governments, whether that be for timing for gaining approvals, timing for gaining licenses, timing to actually build facilities, and then just the enabling legislation that will provide them confidence that at some time during their investment they are actually going to provide a return. But in regards to, I guess, waste and resource management and how it affects us, in council we have two principal activities. The first is resource recovery, and resource recovery is really focused at improving our facilities, predominantly the Resource Recovery Centre and the master, which is a facility that hasn't actually been invested in for the past 10 to 15 years. The master plan at the Resource Recovery Centre is really aimed at not only assisting us manage and ensure compliance against our environmental compliance, but it's also about modernising the facility and ultimately aimed at improving the customer experience, capturing and diverting waste from landfill. And once we've actually captured that waste and turned it into a resource, maximising the revenue that we can actually recover from the material. The second area I want to talk about is waste services. And this really focuses on waste education, community engagement, and I'm going to say the curbside collection contract and network. Key focus this year will be the transition to a new disposal and processing contractor and the finalisation of the procurement for our next curbside collection contract. There are other priority areas or actions that commences the planning to extend services across the Shire, ensuring that there is accessibility for all residents, whether that be access, timing, and that to the mobile community recycling centre, advocating and assisting the community in situating collection facilities like container deposit schemes across the Shire, but then also identifying future recycling or collection sites across the Shire, ensuring that we do have facilities that are easily accessed by all residents and cater for future growth. In regards to budget, our budget has been significantly impacted this financial year this coming financial year by the increased costs associated with the processing and the disposal of waste. This current year we've just undertaken and finalised a contract to manage all of our waste. We went in partnership with a number of other councils to aggregate our waste volumes to, I guess, get a more competitive price. The result of that tender saw that our general waste increased by 66%, so that was the disposal cost. The processing cost for recycling increased by 137%, and the processing cost for organics rose by over 200%. And a lot of that is driven by that volatile commodity market and just that uncertainty around what's going to happen with legislation and what they'll be able to do with end market or end products. Those costs are partially offset by some operational efficiencies, revenue from the reuse centre, and also the domestic waste and management charge.
Thank you very much. I asked you some questions at the last meeting about some of the waste stuff, so I'm kind of up to date. Next steps. Do you have questions first before the next steps, or?
Sorry, Mr. May, it might be a good time for questions, but if I can ask that the directors in the first instance answer, and if it's more detailed, we can call up the responsible manager.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody's got any questions? Come to them. We record it, and so that we can answer it properly for you. You spent the time, we'll spend the time answering. So just the name and the area you live in, we don't want your full address or anything like that.
Daniel Med, Penrose Community Association. The question's targeted at the slide with the list of projects for the Penrose CBD curbing. We had an asterisk by ours. So the question is, will this project be funded in the 2025 financial budget?
Sean made mention of it, and Ned made mention of it. I think my reading of it was from the slide from Ned was yes, but yeah, I can't hear you, so someone will have to come forward.
Mr.
Oh,
Mayor.
sorry.
What Ned said is there's currently budget for the design process, but there's no capital funding identified as yet.
I think that's right, because the design's finished. I was. No, you come to the. It's a big organisation, and everyone doesn't know everything all the time. I only know because I visited Penrose and I found out.
So correct. Currently, the draft 4-year capital program that is attached to the agenda for this meeting, it doesn't feature the Penrose Street adjustments and upgrades. However, as I mentioned in the presentation, we're looking to have that included for the document when it goes out on public exhibition early May. So a long way of saying yes, the intention is for it to be a funded project for 24-25. Yep.
That's the intention, and what I suggest is when it goes on public exhibition, you get people from Penrose to write and say, well done, make sure it stays there.
So it'll be included as part of the 1st of May meeting. There'll be a new suite of documents attached to that meeting, and so that'll have an updated draft capital works program, which will have Penrose Road drainage upgrade attached to it, and that's what the project will be entitled.
Look, just in fairness to all the staff, who I think nobody could disagree are doing an unbelievable job at this place. This is a draft, if I could put it that way. And this is an opportunity where, residents don't normally, well, in some councils they do, and I think they should be here, and I would hope that that incoming councillors and the candidates will commit to this, that residents should be able to see what is happening in relation to bids, if I could put it that way, for work. And this is an opportunity for the staff to hear the questions and seek clarifications, and if they've missed something, it's a great opportunity. And this is what happens with the councillors in their briefings, which again I repeat, I've changed the code of meeting practice, so I have to change it back not to do it.
Dennis Garbutt from Highlands Trails. Thank you, Mr Mayor, about acknowledging Highlands Trails for your comments from the last meeting.
I just say, if you get it wrong, put your hand up.
I appreciate that. We had a good talk the other day on site. Great. Anyway, look, Highlands Trails, we've been building mountain bike trails, sustainable mountain bike trails in Wingelows for many, many years. Now that Southern Highlands Cycle Club mountain bike has joined with Highlands Trails, we're now a mountain bike club, but we're still trail builders. So with the Welby site, it sort of needs a lot of work to bring it up to a mountain bike standard. And with the tip going to be now covered off, it's going to divide these trails into two. I've got some pictures here if you want to see what the trails are. It'll give you an idea of our trails around the tip and how it's going to be divided. With the bitumen road where we normally started our trails with, it's now going to be divided into two. So we're going to lose a lot of our trails for the period the tip's going to be capped off, which is possibly going to be 2, maybe 3 years, from what I can gather. So we're going to have to do some more trail building in here to maintain what is already in place. There's a lot of drainage issues. When it rains, we can't let riders in there for sometimes up to a week because the drainage system of these trails is not what our standard is. So we'd like to come in and bring this up to a standard that brings mountain bikers to this adventure to do it. Over the years, there's been lots of major mountain bike races like the Highland Fling through at Bundanon. Highlands Trails built all these trails which we maintained for all these particular major races. So we know what we're doing when we say we can go in and build. I call it dirt art. We go in and we don't destroy we bring out the natural features of the bush. So when people go for a ride, it's not just a ride, it's a visual ride. And if it's a race, well, it's a different story there, but most of our trails are visual rides. And it's lovely to see people's faces when they come from a ride and they just say, you've done a fantastic job here, it's been a good ride. But to do all this, it costs money. And as a volunteer group, most of our money comes from grants. Winslow, we've got some money from CBA for a grant from the bushfire recovery, which we're using now to regenerate our trails in Winslow. But we don't have the money to do Welby. And Welby is a council asset. We'd like to see if we can get some sort of a budget to bring these trails up to the standard they should be and to bring more riders in. It's going to be difficult with the capping of the tip, but we looked at it and there's possibly we can work two sides of the road for different events. But it's one of those things, we need to bring these trails up to a standard. And as you can see in those, they're our trails now. The red loop won't be there because that's encircling the tip. So we're really only going to have that orange, green and the purple in that particular area to work from. So the gate going in from the cemetery will actually be one of our main ones because that's the only access we'll have. And the other one will be coming from the Barrel Street entrance, which is the one you came in, where we've got the gravity trail, which we're hopefully going to finish in the next couple of weeks. We've got 37.5 tonne of material we're going to be moving in on Saturday by barrows. So we've got a fair bit. We've already put nearly 60 tonne of material in there, as you've seen it. Generously, it's been donated, all this material by Paxton's for us. It's probably about $3,000 worth of material. And the volunteers who have come in, we've had people bring their trucks in to bring materials in. And it's all been donated so far. But to maintain the Welby tracks, we'd like to put it in the budget if we can get some sort of a budget to build it back to where it should be and be a mountain bike event to come to. We'd like to try and get something like the Highland Fling back where we had 2,500 people for whole weekends here riding. You know, that brought a lot of money in. But that was a private enterprise that did that. But as Highlands Trails, we've never been out doing that. We're just the fairies that come and build the trails, maintain them, and that's it. But now we're a mountain bike club, we're a bit different. So we need to try and get some sort of a budget, something that we can utilise. You've got all these things going for the Shire that bring people in. I'm hoping we can do this too.
If I could just say, a picture paints 1,000 words, and I'm glad I went up on, and thanks for inviting me on yesterday, what? No, Monday. Yeah. Look, now's the time, because this is the draft budget, but I just warn you and everybody else and people, you know, who are potentially running for council, that there's such a thing called rate pegging. And I think the CFO really highlighted the challenges associated with addressing the depreciation question at all, as well. And I don't know how many times Mittagong, Barrel and Moss Vale sewer treatment plants were mentioned. But if something comes in, something has to go out. And that's the challenge. However, that's a priority matter. And I hear what you're saying about, in effect, the Welby tip site is going to get totally fenced off, and there's going to be a massive amount of work going on there. But could I suggest to you that you speak to Sean? He'd be the best person at this stage to talk to. I don't think anyone's going to promise you anything, but unless you ask, you never know. And, you know, I think, well, I certainly appreciate the work that you've done to date. And, you know, we fund, there's more than one way to get funding too. There's our grants programs. Yes. So I think, you know, Sean would be the best person to speak with in the first place, but do it as quickly as you can, knowing that their final, well, I should say the staff's finals are going out late April for consideration on 1st May for public exhibition.
I still call us land
That's 1st of May.
I still call us a land care operation too, because we do care for what we build on these particular lands. You know, where some of the things we have to go through, especially with state forests, with the vegetation of everything. I mean, sometimes we can map out a trail, but it might take us 3 months before we get the final approval, because everybody has to go through their procedures, and then it happens. But here, this is a council venue here, and I feel that maybe a part of the land care sort of, because we're actually doing the land care work too, in building these particular trails, as far as I'm concerned, and it is a part of it.
Well, look, I think Sean is the one to talk to.
All right.
But, you know, if you send a letter, when you work out what is achievable, if I could put it that way,
yes,
make sure you copy me in the letter, so that it's front of mind when the budgets are dealt with.
Yeah, well, we've got to go through this and work it out. Luckily, we've got young Geordie now taking over, coming in and doing it. You know, I'm 76 and I can't keep going at doing this myself. And there's a lot of us, Highlands Trails people, are in getting up there too.
And,
so,
yeah.
you know, I'm appreciative Geordie coming in now. He's a young fellow, and hopefully we can get the people doing illegal trails around the place to stop and come and work with us to do this. I'd be more pleased to teach them how to do trails.
That's a credible view.
Yeah. But, you know, we just can't, or I can't keep going. But
no, look, I understand, and I think at this stage, Sean's your man, but act quickly in the knowledge that the budgets are going out, and it's better to be in black and white rather than making a bit at the last minute.
Thanks very much for your time.
Ta.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else got, yeah, come forward.
Good evening. Mark Turner from Robertson. Firstly, thank you, Mr. May and councillors, for facilitating access to the council and officers. It's a bit of a refreshing change. It's developed over the years, which is wonderful. I suppose I'm representing the Robertson Community Association in relation to this. A couple of small matters. Firstly, the unfunded allocation table referred to the Robertson Community Centre, which has to be demolished, I understand. And I understand that there was supposed to be some work done at the School of Arts to partially compensate for the loss of that facility. There was some, I think Sean came out at one stage and had a look at what could be done out there, and I think there was an agreement that some extra work could be done on the outside of the School of Arts to permit another section inside the hall to be used. That seems to have fallen by the wayside. There's nothing in the budget that refers to the work to be done at the School of Arts. I couldn't see anything, or maybe I've missed it.
Well, I can be corrected if I get this wrong. You're not provided with line items in the budget. The staff highlight matters, but it's my understanding that we have an application, or we're about to put an application with the Crown Lands to do the works at the Arts Centre. You better come to the
Sean,
microphone if you don't mind.
Yep, if you
Yeah.
can come forward, thanks.
Correct. So there's a application currently under assessment in the Crown Land Improvement Fund, and that's for the conversion of an existing storeroom, or it's been used as a storeroom in the Robertson School of Arts building, into a meeting room. The applications, I believe successful applications, are to be announced in May. But given that it's a Crown, the facility is on Crown land and it's not Crown land managed by council, nor is the building owned by council, it was thought that in the first instance, it's best to try our hand at the opportunity of the Crown Land Improvement Fund. To date, because it is a heritage listed building, before we could make the application, we had to complete a statement of heritage impact, which has been completed, and that then means that the project's ready to go. It's just awaiting the outcome of the grant application.
Thanks, Sean, for that clarification. There was just nothing in the papers I could see about it. I can report back. Because the Robertson Place Plan is a pilot program which is going to be rolled out to other communities, I understand, Bundanon being the next one, the certain parts of the place plan rely essentially on the revised DCP, which has been talked about here. As you said, there are so many DCPs, I think 14 or whatever. Sorry. A new DCP is essential to progress the Robertson Place plan. In fact, nothing can be done without that happening, because infill development requires reduction in lot size, different height requirements, different regulatory requirements under the DCP, and nothing can be done until that's done. So I just want to emphasise that the Robertson Place plan is not going to go far without those basic matters being attended to.
Until yesterday, I agreed with you. However, Dennis and myself met with the Robinson Chamber of Commerce, and the interpretation you give, that I thought too is wrong, maybe he might want to expand on it now. Is it now the time to do it? Or?
Yep, no, let's get it clarified. Thank you. Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks, Dennis.
That's right. The timing is excellent. So I think everybody has their timing perfect. We discussed this on Monday with the president of the Robertson Business Chamber, as well as this morning with the local planning panel. So essentially, the Village Place Plan is the evidence base to move forward with LEP and DCP amendments. And that was broadly the position of the panel this morning, which provide advice to council. So we've identified already in the place plan the priority areas for infill development, especially those areas just off Hoddle Street, those with laneway access, perfect areas for Fonzie flats, dual occupancies, townhomes, seniors housing. We know the sewer capacity is there. We know the water capacity is there. We know we have a very enlightened resident base that understand that the Robertson Village population requires supplement with further population to maintain the shops and services. So that work can continue. And what I like to say about the Robertson Place Plan is that it's not just about council always doing the work. we've done a lot of the evidence base, and landholders can group together and submit a planning proposal, a rezoning proposal, to reduce those minimum lot sizes, relying on the Robertson Place plan as the strategic evidence base. Council will also be doing the work, so the LEP amendments and the DCP amendments. One thing that I want to watch out for is, and again, part of my role is joining all the dots. With the draft community heritage study, a conservation area is proposed. When that comes online as well, subject to the peer review and subject to council resolution and gateway, it also means Hoddle Street will be protected with that conservation area. So any subsequent development, even if we reduce those lot sizes, loosen up some of those controls, we have the conservation area to protect the local character of Robertson. So it's all coming together. It's not just a glossy document that'll gather dust. It is a live document, and I want to put it into action. And it's the first village place plan, and I'm so glad we chose Robertson to go first.
Sorry, Mr.
Thank you,
May.
Dennis. We have a community association meeting next Tuesday, and I can report back favourably on that comment, so that's great. Thank you.
Can I ask the exec manager to talk also about the other actions? So it's not purely around rezonings or land use, but there are a range of other actions, both in the short, medium, long, that various partners will also implement. Thank you.
Absolutely. So the Robertson Place plan is not just a town planning or a development document. It is very much everything and anything to do with the village. So some of the actions arising out of that is, for example, the active transport or the shared paths that we'd like to implement over the short, medium and long term. When we met with the Robertson community, with residents, we know priority number one was footpaths. And we know exactly where you want those footpaths. So we know the immediate and short-term priorities. Some of the longer-term priorities do require acquisitions, and that takes time with developer contributions coming from some of that development. But also partnering with other agencies, especially Hoddle Street, the Illawarra Highway being a state road. We do need to partner with state agencies to make Hoddle Street a bit more pedestrian friendly. It is a very wide road, and those curbs, even I struggle to get up them sometimes, as well as the public domain improvements. So where council can have impact, partnering with agencies for grant funding is public domain improvements, not just footpaths, but street furniture, benches, lighting, street trees. Just trying to think of some of the other actions in the place
That's
plan.
probably enough, just to give, it's much broader than land use. Thank you.
But in relation to lot sizes, what I heard at our meeting was that you can use that document and consolidate sites and do your own planning proposal based on the council's information, which I didn't understand, and I said when I went in, didn't I, that I don't really understand the next stage. And if the council staff are also dealing with the 15 DCPs and trying to make it. People wonder why it takes so long to get a development application out of this place. It's the dinosaur system. If I could just say also that at our meeting, if you're having a meeting on Tuesday, it's an opportunity. It was raised that the council is considering closing and selling a road. I think there was some confusion on the council's side in relation to that appearing in the place plan, and that will be addressed by Dennis, hopefully when he brings back the report from the planning panel.
Yes,
Don't panic is what I'm trying to say.
we were panicking a bit because once that piece of road's lost, there'll never be another route up to High Street, which is towards the showground. As it is now, there's only one road up there.
Don't lose any sleep. Dennis has got it under control.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else got any other
Good afternoon. Thank you for listening to me. I'm Warren Davies from Bowral. Just a few things. Pre-administration, this is about rates. Pre-administration rates went up 48% to cover things like water and sewage and those things. Have they been put into place? Because now we're looking at more water and more sewage and more drainage. So are those things actually catered for in that particular budget?
Yes, the rate increase over the 3 or 4 years has occurred. And, you know, I think depreciation is a huge issue. But I am of the view that if there was to be any special rate variation in the future, the community would have to ensure that service levels had been looked at right across the board. But that was for general fund. The big issue raised in this budget for me is the 7% for water and sewer. And from what we've been told tonight, is that water and sewer rates in effect were frozen. And the CFO highlighted the lost money as a result of that. And, you know, the council has an obligation, as I said before, you know, when you flush the toilet and turn the tap on, and the council's had these reserves for a long time and not done anything. And the prices haven't gone down. And in a nutshell, that's...
Just to add to what the administrator said, so as I understand, the CFO may want to jump in. The special rate variation that was approved back in 15-16, that was implemented over a few years, was for the general fund, not for the water or the sewer fund. And back at that time, there was a decision made by the council of the day to freeze the water rates at the same time. So one of the challenges for a council is how do you make decisions of the day for the current community and future communities or future generations, and being mindful of a decision that you make today, the cumulative impact of that into the future and the impact that that has on the delivery and funding of infrastructure such as water and sewer that water, you know, Sydney Water would provide in Metro, but Wingecarribee provides in the region.
Can I just extend on that? The 7.1% I believe is based on the Sydney CPI. Seeing we're transitioning from administration to counselling, why can't we increase for 12 months, maybe 10% to cover those water? Is there a legality that says we can't increase for 12 months to cover that water? To cover all those things?
There's no legal reason as to why you couldn't do it, and it's a decision. It's a decision that the administrator may wish to comment.
When I read this on the weekend, I saw 7%. CPI is not 7%. It's less at the moment. But the more I read, the more I saw the reason. But I think you and I probably understand why. But I think there needs to be a justification for people to understand why. You say 10%. Look, it may be necessary to increase further when we know the true cost of Mittagong. I think that's, people haven't said it, but that's the headline I read, that you're worried now about what Mittagong's going to come in at, having regard to what Bowral's come in at. And I haven't been told, but you can read between the lines, that the report in relation to Moss Vale is not going to be pretty.
Because as the CFO highlighted in his report, construction costs have increased around the 17% so increased pressure. Yeah.
Let's ask, with the increase in land values just recently, the 70-odd%, how has that underlined your budget as far as council is going?
I'll ask the CFO. There's a rating, is a specialist field.
Sorry, thank you. With the 70% land increase, we are capped by the rate peg, so it's a redistribution of rates. So if your valuation comes in at 70% as an average of the LGA, your rates will be adjusted by the rate peg. If it is mathematically above that, proportionally, your rates will be redistributed. So when council calculates its rates in its entirety, we look at the rate peg and then do the redistribution based on land rate values.
So what's your actual budget that it has brought in over the period? This was done last year, wasn't it?
It was done last year, I think it was, as a part of levying the rates. It didn't bring in any additional revenue, it just brought in the additional rate peg. So again, it's just a redistribution within those rates.
And you distribute that, do you?
We do based on the valuations, and it is audited by the audit office. So the values come in through Property New South Wales based on what you receive as a valuation. We adjust our registers and then do the calculations based on that, and then look at the overall revenue to then determine what it is at the rate peg to that after that.
The other thing that bothers me too is the fact that the water rates went up, but you have this thing about we're going to let the community know exactly what's happening. It wasn't on the rate notice that it went up 7.1%. The only reason you do that is the fact that someone asks. So when the rates come out in May, from my point of view, water rates have gone up 7%. You're going to have your environmentalisers, they went up 5%. You've got others. Virtually what you're increasing, I believe, is about 25% overall that your rates. So not just 4.6, 4.7, but your actual value is higher. Is that going to be communicated to as a transparency and accountability? Or is that you're going to have to ask and find out?
There will be a brochure that goes out with the rates.
Yep.
And we can put in there what the rate increase is, but it's not cumulative. At this stage, the ordinary rates for general fund will go up 4.7, 4.6? 4.6, that's what we're advertising. Yep. And look, the government has made the maximum the minimum when it comes to rate pegging, in my view. And there'll be winners and losers if there's been a revaluation. As the CFO said, if it's average 70%, if you're under 70%, you'll get a rate reduction. If you're over 70%, you'll get an increase. And that's just the statutory obligations the council has. In relation to water and sewer, it's 7% is what is in this draft. I've made my views pretty clear that I think it needs a better justification. However, I think it's pretty clear what the justification is at this stage. So we can, of course, put that in the rate notice that goes out because, you know, we're all about transparency, and that's what we're having this tonight for.
Okay. Can I ask another question? I've already sent that through to Carmel and to Clinton. The savings you made in the Resource Recovery Centre, the $103,000 per year, and I know salaries have gone up because you've been transparent as far as that goes, as giving you facts and figures. Where do you have other savings as large as $103,000 per year for the next 3 years? Is that something else you've been adjusting, or is it you've lost one lot of salaries or one lot of staff to fund the increases? Is that how it's working?
We will come back to you on that in a report, if you want, about how that's occurred. Okay. Look, but budgets go up and down.
With that, Viv, it's not a problem. I already put in for a review for that particular thing. So that's okay. I'll get that when I actually have an interview with either Carmel or Clinton very shortly. But I've actually asked for that in facts from the reviews why. So that's coming to me. So I'll have a chat face to face with that when I come to that. That's fine. But is that part of the budget? You decrease where you can?
Of course, yes. The staff are continually reviewing and what is going on and to get efficiencies. And look, ratepayers ask me whether we're getting value for our money. Thankfully, this budget is going to go down to level 4. And you can truly see the number of people and what it's costing in those different subcategories. And I take my hat off to the staff. I don't know of too many councils that go down to that level. and then look at 20,000 variations in quarterly statements. But I think we had to do it here to show the community that there's new management.
With the new management, with the elections coming up, something I didn't see in the budget was the actual allowances that you're going to give to the new councillors.
It's there. I read it. Because I read it because it's going to cost more than what I'm costing and for next year. But you know, that's the Remuneration Tribunal will bring down their findings on the 1st of May, and that'll go to the Minister, and the Minister will then make the announcements. But it's all funded in the budget, including a substantial amount for induction.
Yeah, read all that. Yep. That's fine. I'll just reiterate what I've spoken to you about. I don't think we're ready for the transition to elections at this particular point in time. That's just my own point of view. So.
Well, that's the matter outside of both of our levels. But I beg to differ. I think that the General Manager and the team she's got around her, and it's evidence tonight, know what they're doing. I'm not saying the last crowd didn't, but they know what they're doing. And new councillors, I believe, will be able to hit the ground running and make a substantial difference to the community of Wingecarribee.
Can I just add one thing extra? In addition to the budget, completely different. If you're looking at the community, you put out in your newsletter things that are happening, but it's not being employed within the office. For example, the standards, the customer experience and standards, you haven't got that in your information desk. You go down there and ask them, where are the, they'll say, it's around the corner where you want to go and have a look at it. That's something that customers need to have. The other thing you forwarded was the, and it's great, the plastics, the soft plastics. If you go down to the information centre, there's nothing there on the counter. You have to actually ask. If you're not online, you can't download the information to see what the new regime is. And I think that's one of the things you need to do if you're going to be including the community. You need to have those things in place before you send it out as a public notification. And that's just from my experience.
No, look, it's good feedback and appreciate that. And were you listening to the radio station this morning?
No.
Oh,
no.
we spoke about the soft plastics.
Okay.
So no, good feedback, and we'll make sure customer experience across the current happenings.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Cheers.
Look, thank you, and thank other residents who have made contributions. As I said, I think this council has come a long, long way in transparency and accountability, and I think that the works that have been shown today that are planned for the next financial year is just simply fantastic, and I think you should all be applauded. But I would just warn everybody that if, you know, people who are running for council are promising a lot, they've got to pull something out of what's in there already to deliver. And you've got to get 5 of the 9 to agree to do that. And the council works under statutory obligations in relation to operational plans under the rules. So with that, General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. May. So a bit of a wrap up. The last 3 hours we've heard a very, very small part of the operations of the organisation. We've only really touched on the high level in terms of the finances, in terms of assets. It's skimming the surface, and the managers have only really touched on the changes that are proposed in the 24-25 operational plan and budget. As I mentioned at the beginning, we're in the last year of our first horizon with our organisational roadmap, and that's due to finish in 24-25. Over the last 12 months and over the coming 12 months, we'll be aiming to replenish the water fund. We'll be resolving and moving forward with the Welby landfill project. That was a project that has been long-standing, required sign-off by the EPA to have an approved closure plan, and appropriately funded, which has happened last year and proposed for next year to actually start with the construction. The salary system, which has come up a few times this evening, was first mooted back in 2012, and it's now in place. You would have heard a bit about the IT, the transformation. An example, the library system, it's the first upgrade in 23 years. And the library system that we're using, we're one of the last of the 122 councils in New South Wales using it. So we're actually taking a huge step forward. The STPs, the sewer treatment plants, we've invested already around 55 million at Bowral, and Mossvale tender will be coming to the next council meeting, another significant investment. Both STPs are at capacity and should have been updated some time ago. So yes, they're needed for future population growth, but they're also needed now to cater for our current population. And we're grateful to the state government. We were very fortunate in securing 32 million towards those two STPs, 7 for Bowral and 25 for Mossvale, but that only represents 1/3 of the cost of what we're looking at to deliver the project. Over the last 12 months and the coming 12 months, we'll complete a number of significant strategic plans around the SHIP, the Southern Highlands Innovation Park. Again, that was rezoned back in the late 90s. It's now moving forward to being a reality. The DCPs, whatever it is, 24 or 15 or whatever, down to a much simplified version. The heritage study was first mooted back in 2012. We're at the point of putting that to Gateway as a planning proposal in the next financial year. The enforceable undertaking, which the Director of Corporate Strategy and Resourcing, her area, mentioned, that was as a result of a safe work prosecution from 2018. The council, there was a serious workplace accident, and it wasn't until 21-22 that was actually resolved with safe work, and we've been implementing actions and meeting our milestones with that, and we'll continue to do that over the coming 12 months. You would have seen the workers' comp premiums have reduced by 400,000, and people that know about workers' comp understand that there's a 3-year tail for claims, and we're seeing positive trends back in our favour. In terms of workplace safety and a decrease in premiums. In 2024-25, there will be a big focus, a strong focus on the return of the elected council. As the Administrator said, we have done a lot over the last 3 years to stabilise the organisation, reset the organisation, and give the new council a strong foundation to leap forward or bounce from. So we'll be focusing on the onboarding, the asset management plan work that the manager assets mentioned. That will be refined over the next 6 months or so. So when the council do come back, we're in a position to have a strong evidence base and some really good modelling capacity and capability. The property strategy, as the directors mentioned, that will be a key way for us to diversify our revenue base and reduce our reliance on rates, land use rates, going forward. So I want to say thank you to the management team. It was only 3 hours this afternoon, but there were many, many hours that went into preparing for today, and also to the finance and the governance and corporate reporting teams. Again, hours and hours of work have gone into preparing a robust draft budget, and preparing the documentation, which will be presented at the 1st of May meeting. So on the 1st of May, we'll be having our extraordinary meeting with the intention that the council endorse the draft documents. Those documents will comprise of the resourcing strategies, the draft operational plan, the draft budget, which will also include the capital works, the draft fees and charges, as well as the revenue policy. The intent is then to go on public exhibition from the 3rd of May to the 2nd of June. And as the Administrator mentioned, this is very early draft involving the community. We've still got to go through quite a bit more process. So from the 3rd of May to the 2nd of June, we will have community consultation. We encourage community feedback and participation in that process. We'll be holding sessions across the Shire in the towns as well as the villages, and details will come out shortly, as well as promotion through media, e-news, social media and our website. The intent is to have an extraordinary meeting on the 26th of June for Council to consider the submissions and feedback from that process, and to adopt the budget ahead of the new financial year, which will commence on the 1st of July. So that's the plan, Mr. Administrator.
Sounds a good plan to me. And look, and I join you again in congratulating everybody involved in this, and I think the residents who have come tonight and those who are watching online. I'd now like to move back into open council at what is it, 6:36 or 6:35, and declare that carried. I would now move that the council briefing on the draft.
Sorry, excuse me, Mr. Administrator, if I can just ask the Manager of Governance, I think she'd like to just clarify something with you.
Apologies.
Hi, just coming out of Committee of the Whole, we just need to do the report on the proceedings from the Committee of the Whole before we can do the resolution. So I'll just do a summary of what's occurred.
You're good, thank you.
We can relive it again. So in accordance with section 373 of the Local Government Act, Committee of the Whole was held and Council's management team provided a briefing via presentation on Council's draft operational plan and budget. Community members were in attendance and asked questions and made comments in relation to the briefing. The proceedings were as follows. So in terms of the overview of the presentation, Council's management team provided an overview via a presentation on the following: Council's draft budget and capital program and factors impacting the budget and capital program, Council's principal activities and proposed initiatives for 24-25 financial year, and the next steps in the process for the operational plan and budget. The Administrator sought clarification regarding the following: the salary system budget reallocations, interest on investments and the impact of state government funding for emergency works, digitisation of records and compliance with statutory requirements prior to administration, the availability of cemetery records to the public, the promotion of traineeships and apprenticeship opportunities across the Shire within the organisation, road condition surveys and longer term planning for those, community circles eligibility to apply for funding under Council's grant scheme, and the number of DCPs across the Shire. The members of the community in the chamber also were asked if they would like to ask questions during the session, and the community sought clarification and made comments on the following: confirmation of the Penrose Road drainage upgrade project and funding in the 24-25 budget, possibility of funding for mountain bike trails at Welby to bring them to the required standard, the status of works for the Robertson School of Arts, the importance of having a DCP in place to progress the Robertson Place plan, implementation of the pre-administration special rate variation program, possibility of increasing water rates from 7.1 to 10% over 12 months, the impact of land value increases on rates in the budget, promotion of water rates increases, the focus on gaining efficiencies and improvements across the organisation, organisational readiness for the return of councillors, and the availability of customer experience standards within the organisation to customers. And there were no additional recommendations from Committee of the Whole.
Thank you. So I can now move the advice has been received, and I declare that carried. Just before I close the meeting, and I would imagine there be quite a few candidates at home watching. The council issued a press release yesterday in relation to the 3 remaining candidate sessions. I have been working behind the scenes to try and get an expert, in effect, with proportional representation, grouping, and the importance of the ballot paper. And I've found someone now who will be making a presentation on the 8th of May. And I will ask the staff if they can amend what's on the site. There has to be a bit of a change to what we're doing, but it'll be an extra one. But I just, talking to some of the candidates, I got concerned about knowledge of just being by yourself out on the right-hand side of the ballot paper, and groupings, not to mention proportional representation generally and preferencing. And we found an expert in this who is unaligned, and that person will present on the 8th of May. And so we'll stick a press release out, probably the latest on Tuesday, because I haven't finalised everything yet. But just to reiterate, the General Manager rightly has not been involved in these sessions. The General Manager's role is to deal with the councillors when they're elected. So I've kind of been trying to do this myself. Having said that, nothing else. I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.